just kick the door in. Don't ask for permission. Just go do it. If somebody tells you no, just walk around them. You just have to be so driven to get something done. Do not let anybody tell you that something is impossible. Nothing is impossible.
You are now part of a social experiment.
See now where my limit is. Only got no.
Welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us today on the journey towards self-mastery. Our next guest is a former U.S. Army officer. He is an engineer who is taking the fight to global water scarcity to new heights. He aims to give people across the world clean air and water through his atmospheric water generator. His machine turns air into water, generating thousands of gallons of water a day. His technology has produced millions of gallons of water globally. He has traveled around the world helping communities in need like Flint, Michigan, Jackson, Mississippi, Puerto Rico, and the list goes on. He has been celebrated and covered on major news outlets all over the world. Austin, Texas has dedicated February 6th as a day to celebrate him called Moses West Day. Let's welcome today future Nobel Peace Prize winner, Mr. Moses West, to the program. Mr. West, definitely an honor having you on, man.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So one of the things that I know you mentioned and you talk about too, like in a lot of your talks, is just water in general. Like, you know, we talking about water scarcity and populations all over the world not having access to water, which is a natural product. It comes from nature. And, you know, you obviously with your work, you're reemphasizing that. So as a natural resource, you know, you've traveled all over the world. Why do so many people have issues getting access to clean air and water if it's natural?
We have a problem right now with several different problems when it comes to drinking water. One is an education problem that we have. People need to understand where their water comes from and how to maintain their watersheds, where the water actually hits the ground, flows to a river, or flows to a aquifer. That's an education point. The next point that we have where we have a problem with is we have an industry corporation problem where we continue to heat the planet. And heating the planet, it's not the heat. Everybody thinks it's the heat. Yeah, the heat will kill you. But what it is that's going to get us worse than anything else is the heat makes water evaporate. The water that's in the atmosphere, that is just massive amounts of energy. If you look at any continent in the world today, even the United States, what's the main thing you see happening? Floods, massive floods. The atmosphere is so saturated with water, it's going to make insurance companies go broke. Then the next thing that we have the water that's in the air and the heat and that makes the hurricanes like atomic bombs. So we have those bowling balls rolling at the United States and Asia in the form of typhoons. So, and then the contamination issues, my goodness. Let's hit that one. Plastic. It's everywhere. It's in the food. It's in the air. It's in your body. It's in the groundwater. There's a place, the Marianas Trench in the ocean, the deepest part of the ocean, Challenger Deep. They call that Challenger Deep. Can't get any deeper than that in the ocean. They found plastic.
Wow. Yeah. Very, very interesting. I want to dive too into your atmospheric water generator, but before then, I kind of want to get a little bit about your background and how these things, you know, how you got into the work that you're doing now. So can you share with us, you know, growing up, I know you grew up traveling around different parts of the world, but you started in post-war Germany. So what were some of your early experiences growing up? Were you always like an engineer type of mind state growing up and things like that?
Well, yeah, pretty much. Growing up in Germany, what I got to experience in the very beginning is growing up and seeing a whole population of people. They brought on World War II, but as a black person living in Germany and with my father and the other GIs there, there was a whole population of people when I was growing up that were white and were being treated extremely badly. I was too young to understand why they were treated so badly or why people hated them so much. But, you know, I was a little kid. Everything was pretty much still in ruins. when I lived there, and so that was a great experience to have as a child because it helped shape my thought process as I grew up.
Are you talking about like former soldiers from World War II or in Germany?
Oh, the Germans, the German economy. You gotta remember, Germany is a very modern country today. I'm telling you, in 1960, they were still building that place up.
Hmm.
There were still whole blocks of cities that were in ruins, and I got to play in that as a little kid.
What did you experience kind of traveling, across the world outside of Germany? And what did you kind of get as a kid growing up that led you to be a part of, the army?
Well, the main reason wanting to be a soldier is because that's what my father was doing. In the United States, being a very racist country in the 50s and 60s, and continuing on today in many ways, the military was one place where I could see black people, white people, Asian people, everybody working together for a common cause. Whereas I would travel down south, and Jim Crow South was still in effect in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and on a military base, I was equal. When I went to school, no one called me names, no one picked on me. Little black kids, little white kids, little Asian kids, little Jewish kids, little Catholic kids. We all went to school together because all of our fathers worked together. And and that's the world that I knew. But when I walked outside of the gate, I was into it was bad. It wasn't something I wanted to participate in. I felt secure in the military.
Got it, got it. And then, when you made your decision to be a part of the military, what was your experience prior to retirement?
My experience all the way through high school and college was absolutely fantastic because my high school was private, my college was private, and so I went from a military base to a university directly into the military. So I didn't really have to put up with too many things that were going on outside in society. The only time I did, of course, is when I traveled or when I changed military stations or when I had to be stationed in the South. But it was a great experience. It's a great learning experience.
Mm. Now, I would say you kind of have like a problem solver's mind state. And sometimes I feel like in the United States, we don't see a lot of those kind of people being outputted through the education system. Do you feel like your mind state and the way that you function now is a byproduct of a globalized kind of education? Or was it just like a innate type of thing?
Nah, it's absolutely part of how you grew up. When you're a little kid and you're going down to Bremerhaven, Germany to jump up on a big ship, I sailed into New York Harbor. I sailed on a ship and I came through New York Harbor into New York, past Ellis Island, just like every other immigrant that's ever come to the United States. As a little kid, you walk up to that big ship. The first thing I thought was, how does this thing work? I was a little kid. I'd never seen a ship. So I met a sailor, and the only thing I wanted to do was I wanted him to take me down to the engine room. I wanted to see the big shaft where the propeller was turning. I was only a little kid. I wanted to go up to where they were driving the ship. I wanted to see that wheel turn. It was just fantastic. Every place I turned, there was something that I wanted to take apart to see how it worked. Just the amazement of this massive thing sitting on top of the water. My mind wouldn't stop moving. And then when I got to New York, we got a helicopter ride. We got a ride from one place to another place in a helicopter in New York. And these are things that little kids just don't get to do today.
Right. Yeah, that is fascinating.
I've always been fascinated with how things work because I've always seen big things doing big things.
That is fascinating. So you get an injury in the military and you're not able to continue. How did you kind of think about like the next steps and phases in life? I know a lot of, military, soldiers and things like that go through sometimes mental health crises and issues when they get back home and things like that. So how did you kind of redefine your purpose after your injury?
Well, one thing I did was I was a pilot. I'm a commercial pilot. So one thing I did was I got myself healthy again. I stayed healthy. I went back and I renewed my commercial pilot's license just to fly some friends around. So I started flying again. I don't fly anymore. I don't want to. And then I started to focus on things that were more positive. I said to myself, if I can do something that's so negative and so destructive, I can take that same amount of energy that I used to do that, and I can do something positive. So all the energy that it took to take a human life or to destroy something, destroy a vehicle, fire artillery, fire tanks, use C4, blow things up, be a good shooter at long distance, a mile plus out, snooping around through the jungle, living in the swamps, climbing mountains, just to go blow something up. Takes a lot of energy.
I'm almost
to take all that negative energy and do something positive with it. So here we are.
That is fascinating. I'm almost thinking like a Rambo-ish type of person transitioning into humanitarianism.
Rambo doesn't have anything on it. That's a fantasy thing. The guys who are actually out there doing that, they're guys that you don't want to tangle with. These guys are they're very good-hearted, very good-natured, but they are true warriors in every sense of the word.
That is interesting to me. Like, did it take therapy to get you to that mind state? Because generally, like, when you find people that come back, like maybe they go on to be police officers or something similar connected to like that army type of mind state, but you're creating, inventing, and trying to solve world problems. Like, did that take a lot of like therapy and things like that to get you to that mind state?
The only therapy you had to go through that I did was just it was more of an adjustment therapy, just to feel normal as a civilian after such a long time in the military. There's an adjustment phase that some people go through, especially if you do a significant amount of combat time, and that was pretty much it. But so far as wanting to go out and still carry a gun, nah, I was good. And I always feel like living in a country, I said I never wanted to have to carry a gun in my own country to defend myself. So
that is fascinating. So now we transition into your second life. And you've mentioned before that the atmospheric water generator that you produce is not the first one. You were inspired by a previous one. So can you walk us through your inspiration and how being inspired led to, your creativity and inventing something that what you have now, which is on a massive scale?
Well, yeah, my next door neighbor, I was in a relationship in Hawaii. It was terrible. She was just like she was arguing with the next door neighbor constantly, and the next door neighbor was actually the little kid who played. If you ever watched this series called Hawaii Five-0,
I feel like I've seen a couple episodes of that.
Well, there's this little boy in Hawaii Five-0 who was in several episodes. Well, that little boy was my next door neighbor in Hawaii, and him and my partner at the time she argued with everybody. And so one day, just to make the peace, he invited me into his house, and he had this a little water generator made in China that he was selling. And him and bunches of other people were selling them there for a couple of $100. And I sat there and I saw this machine, and I just thought it was the most amazing thing. And from that point, I said to myself, here's this little machine that makes water for this guy in his house. And maybe for me, if I needed to drink a few drinks of water every day. I said, this thing is absolutely amazing. What I need to do is need to find out if you can make one this small, I need to be able to make one large enough to supply a whole community with drinking water. And so that's what I did. I designed a system that could do that.
How'd the guy that had the water generator before, how do you feel about your invention through his inspiration?
Well, I haven't talked to him since then, but it was a system that was made in China. They've been making them ever since then. These you could buy these small water generators. You can go on this website called Alibaba and buy these little small water generators that make water for your house. The problem with them is that they use too much energy. They're small and they're only good for one home. So what I want to do is when I put out a water generator, I want for a whole community to be able to drink, because the problem is not individually who is missing water in the world, but the problem is globally everyone who's missing water right now it's large communities.
Right. Right. So what was that really what made yours different than the other ones that were created before? Like yours was able to do it on a massive scale where the other ones were smaller?
Yeah, there were some big ones out there in the world, and I was looking at those because I needed to get my hands on one to do a project in Texas. And everybody in the world who said they had one, I would call the company up, and the only first thing they would say to me is, "Will you work for my company?" And so then that let me know that they were still behind on the technology. And so what I had to do was I studied up and I caught up to where they were at. And then when I was where they were at, that's when I passed them. I caught up to them. I got to parity, equal, just to be able to produce water. But that wasn't enough, because I learned from the officials in the United States and from the military and from state officials what the real secrets to what success was. The success lies in you cannot produce water more costly than more costly than pulling it out of the ground or a river. It had to be cheaper. The energy consumption had to be less, and that's what I did.
So, yeah, I mean, you're talking about science and engineering and a few other skills to be able to produce what it is that you are doing. Does your education stem from just trial and error, or did you have, before inventing this, something more regimented in terms of your engineering background?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a test pilot. Yeah, you know what power plant jet engine technician. I had jet engine technicians that would take engines apart, and I would have to be able to do their job as well as they could do it. I would have to look at their work, inspect it, and know that it was absolutely correct. Prop and rotor, turbine engine, jet engine, landing gear, hydraulics, electronics, avionics, radar, all of these different skills. I had to know about every one of them, whereas a technician had to know about his specific skill. But when you're in charge of the maintenance facility where all of this work is being completed on all of these different technologies, you have to be knowledgeable of every one of them.
Got it. Now,
my head used to hurt in the evening.
I could imagine, man. So now, like with the machine, I feel like a lot of people don't really have a good understanding of how it works. I was even reading online in the comment section of some of your news posts. People were like, "This guy's making, an AC. Like you wouldn't drink AC water, like, or he's making a humidifier. Like this is simple, easy cupcake stuff. Like, how would you explain in layman's terms what is exactly happening? Because people are like, well, would you drink AC water? How is this water even, a safe thing? And this is not this, pretty much discrediting what it is that you're doing. So I really want to get a good understanding of what it is that makes the water come from the air, just in layman's terms.
I gotta tell you the truth here. Okay. Sometimes you have to look at the source of the person who is saying that. There's so many people out there that fully understand what I'm doing. There's so many intelligent people out there that fully get it. And if you don't fully understand it, all you have to do is ask, and I will explain it. It's like anything else. It's like how that ship floats. I would have to ask the sailor how it worked, how the engine worked, instead of saying something coming from a place of not even knowing how to present the question in a way without any background or understanding, You can ask people where rain comes from, and they can't tell you. You can ask people where their drinking water comes from, they can't tell you. And so to get comments from people who don't fully understand everything, I'm very open to explaining. But if somebody hits me with negativity in the very beginning, and they don't have the education to start with to even present the question in a way that's not offensive, I delete people so fast it's not even funny.
I feel like if you were a white man,
I don't play with trolls, man. I don't play around with trolls.
I feel like if you were a white man that invented this wouldn't be like, well, where'd this guy come up with this from? This is like, it must be simple. It must be like, all these things that the trolls are saying. I don't think if you were white, they would have these kind of skepticisms. Just from my opinion.
Absolutely, no, absolutely. It's I've experienced it. I've had to move manufacturing several times, and most of the times I've moved my manufacturing, it's because of I moved out of Texas because the race issues there were just off the charts. I don't think a black engineer had ever been in the building where I was having my equipment manufactured. There were people who didn't want to work for me. I went to Wisconsin to manufacture equipment. I was overcharged, overtaxed. I paid so much for some equipment to be built for the military that the military actually had to come down and speak to me about it. But these guys are so well attuned how things work in the United States that they fully understood the challenges that I face as a black man. They understand. And so now where I'm manufacturing, I went through the whole process, interview everybody, and it's just fantastic now.
I'm glad. So getting back into how it works. So the humidity from the air is getting transferred and creating water. What differentiates that water that's being created from, I would say, like rainwater or water, like people said, like through an AC or something like that? Like what would differentiate the water that you're creating through the humidity from your machine from the other sources?
It's never touched the ground, and it didn't come out of your house. The moisture is coming through the air conditioner in your house, at your AC unit at home. All that air that's in your ducts at home, you got to get the guy to come in there and clean your air ducts out.
Mm-hmm.
All that dust that's in your house, all that evaporation from your toilet, from your kitchen sink, all that's the kind of stuff that's being condensed out of the water that's in the air in your home. I'm condensing water from the air from what you see behind me. So those trees out there are putting out moisture. I'm sitting here and I'm grabbing that moisture in a machine. So the only difference between my machine and rain is the water that's in my machine, it never hit the ground. It's the same as rain without, the sand particles, dust particles. And then I send it through not only do I filter the air before it comes into the machine, then I send the air through carbon filtration while it's in the machine. Before it comes out to you, I send it through 5 microns, 25 microns, first 25 microns, then 5 microns. Then it goes through carbon filtration before it even comes out to you.
Got it. Now I'm gonna just replay some things I've heard from the trolls, like doing research for this. Some people are like, man, this guy is, his whole arm is across the water and he's trying to, get people drinking water to survive. Water's running out of the machine into the ground, like, gallons and gallons. He's wasting this thing. Like, what do you say to people that have those skepticisms about how you're delivering the water and you touching the water and things like that?
Look, when the water's coming out, when the machine is pushing water out, it's the same as a waterfall. My machine is a tap to the atmosphere. It's a tap, and when you drink water, say if you're walking through a jungle and you see two streams. One stream is a stagnant pond with moss growing on top of it, lily pads, plants growing out of it, and the other one is going down some rocks, and it's like a bubbling stream. Which one are you going to drink from? The one where it's flowing, correct? This machine has to continuously operate. It's like the hydrologic cycle. If water sits still, it's called stagnant. So my machines, when they sit there at the shop, when people come by to see them, or when they deploy, you never turn them off. And only time the machine shuts down is when 2,000 liters fill up in that machine and that tank is full, but then you want to replace that water because you don't want it to sit still. So people take water, and when it's gone, it fills up again. But sometimes, like in a test environment where a lot of those videos come from, that water is filled up in that machine. I'm not going to let that machine sit there for 30 days or 2 weeks or even 5 days with all that water. I'm going to let all that water out. I'm going to make new water because people, when they come up, they drink that water. And so what I'm doing is I'm maintaining the health of that machine by not letting it be stagnant. So when you see water flowing out, that's just water just rolling back into the environment, evaporating, and I'm recapturing it again.
Got it. That makes sense.
It's not wasting water. A lot of it is testing.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting videos when things are being tested, new ideas are being formulated, new processes. So it's like, okay, hey, I have 2,000 liters here. I got to get rid of it.
Gotcha.
And somebody get a camera. Hey, they grab a camera and then boom, there we go.
Got it. So now, I'm thinking about the military, which is involved in your projects, and you're working for them and getting them some of your invention. What would make the military? They have access to everything. Like, what makes the military interested in Moses West and what you're bringing to the table?
If the grid shuts down, no one's going to have water. The military knows that. The military prepares for that. If there's a unit that has a specific mission and they're isolated and the grid shuts down, they have no water. They have to get supplied. With my technology, they could defend in place. If you need to deploy, water is heavy, it's costly, and it's expensive. It costs over $100,000 for some aircraft in the military to fly for 1 hour. C-5, C-17. These aircraft are very expensive to fly. If you fill that aircraft with water, that's the only thing that'll have in it because water is so heavy. So you're going to spend millions of dollars to fly water from here to there, when you can take a machine from here to there and make the same amount of water. The military switched on to this technology. We have buildings where we have contaminated water, where it's high humidity. The building can be completely off-grid, net zero with its water. Instead of pulling water from a contaminated water main, the military sees that.
That makes sense.
So now they don't have to transport water. They can set up a unit, set up some limits, set up some water tanks. A unit can pull in, set down, and voila, they have enough water for 1,000 soldiers.
That makes sense. As far as the safety of the water, were you able to get it scientifically tested and check all the boxes in regards to safety of drinking and things like that?
Absolutely. If you go to my AWG contracting website, I think I've got water quality reports. The water quality reports that have been done on this water, the water exceeds even World Health Organization standards. The World Health Organization,
mm-hmm.
It exceeds water quality standards of any water produced in the United States. There's no perfluorinated compounds in the water. I've tested for that. There's no forever chemicals, and there's no plastic. There's no PFOA. The water's just clean.
Got you. Do you test the pollutants in the environment before establishing your machine in an area or something like that? Because I would imagine, like you mentioned, whatever the environment is going to be particles that's going to be in that water, right? So is there any testing that you do for the environment before you would start putting the machine in a location to start making water?
I don't have to. The Environmental Protection Agency already does that. You have if you look at your app for what the temperature and humidity is for a day in an area, it'll also give you the air quality standards. But even with the air quality standards being the worst you could ever have for an area, I've produced water in those places, gotten the $6,000 water quality test, and aced them. Hazardous airborne particulates, they're called HAPs. I've been tested for HAPs several times. Hazardous airborne particulates, the stuff that comes out of the tailpipe of your car. Never, not even a trace amount has ever been found in a water quality test from one of my atmospheric water generators.
Mm. That is now, I'm not as scientifically based as you are, but how in a polluted area are you able to get clean water if the air and the surrounding atmosphere might not be the best?
Well, if you break down a cubic meter of air, it's made up of certain things. You have hydrogen, you have oxygen, then you have the petrochemicals, you have the microplastics, you have all these different elements that are floating around in that cubic meter of air, correct? My machine is only looking for one element. It's looking for a molecule called H2O. It's at a specific temperature where H2O condenses out of the air. H2O at a certain temperature, dew point, plus or minus 2. Dew point. So that's how I'm sitting outside right now, and that's how this can is getting wet, because it's at a temperature where only the H2O molecules coming out. Plastic molecules not coming out on this can, only water. And so the machine does the same thing, but then you filter the water as well.
Gotcha. So you got two separate portions of what you do. You got a non-for-profit and you got a profit side. For the profit side, I mean, your machine is so valuable and it's making water continuously. How do you determine the cost and the price that you would charge someone that is interested in purchasing your machine?
Labor. How much does my labor cost? How much do the parts cost? And everything that I put in the machine is made here in the United States. I don't buy anything from China. I don't buy anything from any Pacific Rim country. I only buy things where Americans are employed to put the machine together. Every component is made right here in the United States, because I believe that everybody's got to have a job. It's not about making the money. It's about it. You have to make money to keep going, but it's also about doing something here in my own country to keep people employed. So I could get kids from the school or from the university to come down and get interested in something other than just sitting around on TikTok all day long.
Yes, sir. I love that.
So when making all the components here, everybody has a way to participate, and we can keep people employed and engaged.
Got it. So from the nonprofit portion, your mission has been kind of to take your profits and reinsert them back into the non-for-profit portion and to help out the world pretty much gain access to water. And you've traveled to some different places around the world, giving people water. So can you share some of those experiences with us and, your travels, what you've seen in regards to the water and the impact that you bring in the machine had?
Yeah. When you go someplace to give water to people, one of the most heartbreaking places I've ever been was Flint.
And that's out of the world, because you've been to Puerto Rico and some different places, right? That's fascinating.
People were dying in both places because of water. When I got to what was scary about Flint was that the water was so contaminated. So many people had died in the neighborhood, and so many people were still drinking water with lead. And there were so many kids that had brain damage that they couldn't even play. They walked around like little zombies. And I would stand there and I would look around and I would say to myself, this is taking place in the United States. And there's not even a camera team down here filming this. They're not in this neighborhood. They're not seeing these people come out of these basements who've been homeless, who've been drinking water out of one of these pipes for a long time. Their brains were completely destroyed. And you see people walking around like this. And then in Puerto Rico, there were people who were just, their eyes were red, their stomachs were bulging, their gums were swollen. There was just all the stuff that you see. And then once you come in and you start giving people clean water, you get a caregiver syndrome where you kind of don't want to leave. So the degradation and the damage that I've seen that takes place in these places, and how easy it is to fix by coming in with a technology that brings clean water, it blew my mind. It's almost like post-traumatic stress. You sit in a place and you see it such an easy fix, but you can't get enough donations. And then even the money I make from my sales of equipment to the military, I take that, I put it back into my foundation so I can go out and do some more good. But right now, it's still a place. There's so many people that need so much help in these places that I've traveled around the world. Right now, it's just, if say I get that kind of money, then what I got to do is I got to train 3 people to take that machine and go there and do the job that I was doing.
Man, that was fascinating. So, what happens when you leave these places, as far as the machine and water goes?
Well, in Puerto Rico, I ran that machine so hard that it had to get scrapped in place. It just got scrapped in place. And then the people that in Flint, that mission was actually got shut down by a man named John Bulmer out of San Antonio, Texas. He's a former business partner, and he saw how much good I was doing in Puerto Rico and how much good I was doing in Flint. So the part that people don't know of what happens in the background of doing this, of this company that I started, this technology that I invented, well, people who partnered with me in the past who are no longer part of my process or part of my company, they have actually sued to stop the mission in Puerto Rico, and they've actually sued me twice to stop the port mission in Flint.
Wow.
Incredible, isn't it?
It is, man. It's no matter how much good you're doing, there's always somebody out there that doesn't want you to help people, man. It's crazy.
No, it's I think what it is there's some people out there that just don't want to see you succeed, and there's some people out there that if you do succeed, they get extremely jealous.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I definitely understand that. And speaking of that, like success, and doing these type of things, when you start these type of things, you always get people in the comments like protect him at all costs, and these type of things that people say, and people generally think that there is a heavy level of danger behind trying to solve world problems and trying to just roll up your sleeves and do the work. Do you find that to be accurate, to where there is a danger involved in this, or is that something that just people don't really have a good concept of?
I don't think people have a good concept of it. That some people have been watching too many movies or been reading too many conspiracy theories. Look, I build equipment for the United States Army Research Laboratory. Okay, I build equipment for the United States military. I'm about to build some machines for the United States Air Force.
Mm.
Here's how you get hurt. It's like right now I need to go into some areas of inner cities to put machines in to try to help and to educate people in the inner city of how to grow their own food, produce their own water, get healthy again, get off the fast food, because the junky food is making a junky mind.
Mm.
Food companies are destroying the inner city with this food. The most dangerous thing that I could do is take my happy ass and tie the inner city with these kids running around with guns today.
Mm.
Yeah. It's changed a lot in 5 years.
Yeah, you're right. Even outside the inner city, in different impoverished places around the world, you come in as an American coming in with money and whatever it is, you become a target, even though you're trying to help. People see it as an opportunity sometimes.
Well, I think we have way too many guns and way too many people with guns that shouldn't even have a driver's license.
Yes, sir. I know you mentioned working with youth and different things like that. So what is the mission behind, going into different universities and high schools to do work with youth and put them onto what you're trying to do?
Well, I'll tell you right now what I'm doing with the University of Scranton. I've got a meeting coming up with the professors there. The kids there, I can announce it here. I'm building a machine that you can have at your house that'll cost right at the $5,000 mark, somewhere in that range. That's the range I'm trying to stay within. Don't hold me to that, okay? It'll be someplace under 10, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a system that everybody will be commercially able to buy that'll be extremely high quality, that'll make water. And that system will be designed by the university students from the University of Scranton and any other university who would like to tag on and get onto this and help develop this technology. Well, I've already designed the machine. We're already doing the CAD drawings for it, but then I'm going to get the input from the students and let them do reports on it. Because designing the machines is not hard for me anymore. It's pretty easy, actually.
And let's say that this, becomes, where everybody does and can have access to the machine in their homes. What is the global impact in your view of being able to have that access?
Well, let's see. There's going to be no more lead poisoning with kids. There's going to be no more forever chemicals in your bloodstream from drinking tap water. There's going to be no more pre-fluoridated compounds in your drinking water at home. There's going to be, your sperm count's going to go up. The birth rate might go up. Yeah, the sperm count in the United States is dropping. People are having less children. And part of the reason it's dropping is because of all the toxicity that's in the environment. Part of the reason we have so many birth defects in the United States, so many birth ailments in children, is because of all the chemicals that are in our environment. Nobody wants to say that. Nobody wants to admit that. But that is the reason. We have a very toxic environment. We have toxic food. We have toxic water. We have toxicity everywhere. And you need a pure source of water. You need a clean source of water.
I agree. I hope that, that happens sooner than later. I know,
yeah, well, I'll be done with this I'm designing 2 machines right now, and I'll be done with the complete design out and production, within the next 90 days. And I'm doing that right now.
That is amazing, man. You're doing some amazing things that, a lot of us complain about things, but not a lot of us roll up our sleeves and try to do the work. And I think when you do that as a Black person, obviously as a Black male, you're going to be facing backlash. And just advice, I guess, for future innovators that are Black, from your experience, what advice would you give them, and what are some experiences that you've had to kind of maneuver through and deal with as a Black inventor?
Just kick the door in. Just kick it in. Don't ask for permission. Just go do it. If somebody tells you no, just walk around them. You just have to be so driven to get something done. Do not let anybody tell you that something is impossible. Nothing is impossible. It might be highly improbable, but it's not impossible. And there's no such thing as a problem. There's no problems in the world. There's only opportunities. That's it.
That is powerful. How do you deal with racism and some of the things you mentioned you had to deal with in Texas? Like, how do you psychologically deal with that without focusing on it and allowing that to impact your work?
Well, let me tell you, as a kid, when your feelings get hurt so many times, you kind of become numb to it. As a Black person in the United States, you become numb to the hate that you experience in some places or towns, or you become numb to being the only Black person in the room. You notice it, and I'm sure there's some type of effect that it has on you. I'm sure it's shortening my lifespan in some type of way because it's so negative. But how do I deal with it? I try to surround myself with good, positive people, open-minded, and sometimes you have to search very hard. You have to move manufacturers sometimes. You have to change engineers. You have to change people you deal with in business. You have to do these things to find the right people. But over time, what do they say? The cream rises to the top.
Yes, sir. Great advice,
and
man.
Once you've done something long enough and people see that you're dedicated enough, the good people do come out. They start to find you. And it is like people would never think that I would find so many good, honest, open-minded, accepting people in the state of Pennsylvania But Pennsylvania has just been absolutely fantastic for my company and for my foundation.
That is awesome, man. Another thing I know that you were focusing on, and you said that you can solve, is the food desert issue. So, what have you noticed about the food desert issue that so many black populations worldwide are in, and what solutions have you thought about?
Okay, here I'm going to give everybody a little bit of homework right now. Okay, everybody's got Google. Okay, everybody's got YouTube. What I want people to do is I want you to Google Soul Train, 1960s, 1970s, Soul Train. Look at those kids on Soul Train. That was the black community in the 60s and 70s and the 80s. Go on and look at it, and look at today of how people look in the inner city. And it is not their fault. The fault lies in the food companies who saturate the inner city with high sugar, high salt, alcohol, menthol cigarettes, malt liquors, anything that is not healthy for the human body. You can't make a salad in the inner city. We have places out in the out in rural America where they can't find organic food. The food that we buy in the grocery store is so highly contaminated. We've been using herbicides on foods in the United States that looks healthy. We've been using herbicides that have just been banned, that they knew they should have been banned 30 years ago. Now the homework is look at the people then and look at people today. And the only thing that's changed is the food. We eat too much, and the food that we eat always makes us feel that we're hungry because we're not eating nutritionally dense foods that are organic, free of chemicals, with the nutrients for the human mind to grow and the body to grow healthy.
So how do you solve
food?
How do you solve that in your view?
You grow your food in the city. You pull the water out of the air that's clean, and you grow food in the city in greenhouses. The students at the school come to the greenhouses where the atmospheric generator is working. You're using solar power to power it. That's a STEM program in itself. You're producing 480 volts of electricity. You need 480. You need 208 three-phase, 480 three-phase, 208 three-phase, 220 single-phase, 110 single-phase. Every voltage there is that you need to operate this system, from the grow lights to the water generator to putting in the solar panels, which are DC, and then you got to convert that to alternating currents. You have to have inverters, you have to have batteries, and you're growing food. That's just the way of the future. So every inner city where they have this food problem, you could be creating engineers, workers for the future with green technologies, and making the community healthy again.
That makes a ton
and wealthy.
That makes a ton of sense, and it's not really that expensive to implement either.
No, I could like if you gave me a block, an abandoned block on the south side of Chicago, I could make everybody in that area. I could give everybody in that surrounding area within that mile radius a livable income by growing food in that space and selling it probably in a 20-mile radius from that area. Organic fruits and vegetables.
Very, very powerful, man. All right, before we wrap up, I wanted to get into a quick little activity called What's Your Favorite? Okay. Just identifying a few of your favorite things. You can keep it short and simple or elaborate if you want. So what is your favorite beverage outside of water?
Sparkling water.
Sparkling water. Very interesting. All right. Favorite thing about your machine?
I like watching you make water. There's a window on the side of the machine. I put windows on every machine. Mm-hmm. All of the engineering that goes in the entire machine, when I turn that thing on, and on a day when it's like 80% humidity outside, I could stand there for hours and hours and just look at it rain inside that machine. I just think that is the most amazing thing.
Mm. All right, got you. Favorite story of somebody that you've helped?
There was a woman in Flint, Michigan. She was homeless. Her house was so contaminated she couldn't move in. She came to me one day and she said, "Mr. West, I need I need I think I need 500 gallons of water." I said, "Okay." I said, "But I can give you 500 gallons today, but you can't carry it." She goes, "Every day I'm going to come, I'll get 25 or 50 or whatever I can carry in my car." So every day she came up, she got 25 to 50, 25 to 50, 25 to 50. And she went and she went. And then she came back one day and she said, about a week later, and she thanked me. And I said, "Well, I'm giving water to everybody." She goes, "Let me tell you what I did." She goes, "I've been homeless since this whole crisis started because I couldn't clean my home. You gave me enough water for me to clean my house so that I could move back into it. You can't clean your house with lead contaminated or contaminated, chlorinated, filthy water. You just can't. You can't clean your sink. You can't clean your refrigerator. Your refrigerator just grows with mold." She cleaned her entire home and she moved back in with her family.
That's beautiful, man. That is beautiful. What is your favorite memory from the military?
my, my favorite memory from the military. I would be flying along in a Chinook, and I would sit back and I would push my seat back far. I let the co-pilot fly, and I would sit in the seat and I would look at the instrument panel. I would look at all the flight instruments because all your engine instruments are in the middle console because we share those. I have a set of flight instruments. The co-pilot has a set of flight instruments, so you can fly in all types of weather. I looked at all the radios up top, the radios in the middle, the customer stuff up top, and I thought to myself, I know everything about everything here. I know what every switch is. I know what every circuit breaker is. I know what every dial is. I can calculate anything. I can fly anywhere in the world. I can do anything with this machine. I am the master of this machine.
Mm. That's powerful.
And I laid back and I just thought, I'm pretty badass right now. And that's one of my greatest memories. And that just hit me one day on a flight in Germany. I sat back, I assessed where I was, and I just like, this is just incredible.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Self-mastery right there. What is your favorite food to grow?
Tomatoes. I grow tomatoes like nobody's business. It's like back there in Pennsylvania, we're gonna do a greenhouse and just to show everybody how it can be done, and we're just gonna start growing food and just giving it away to the food bank.
That's amazing, man. Favorite place that you travel?
Australia.
Any reason?
Everybody was really friendly. I never experienced any racism in Australia. The people are beautiful. They got a wonderful sense of humor. I love the ocean. I just love Australia. It's the land down under. It's just great.
Mm. Favorite book that connects to the work that you do?
Favorite book that connects to the work that I do. I have a physics book that I always like to go back and look at every once in a while. That's it.
Last one here. Actually, we've got two more. Your favorite person that you'd like to sit down and have a conversation with that are alive?
That's not alive or not alive?
Dead or alive, whichever one or you could pick both if you want.
My dad.
Mm.
I would bounce my dad and my uncle. I would bounce my ideas, and I would build models when I was a kid, where I would tell my dad and my uncle what I was doing, and they always gave me time to sit there, and they would explain to me. They taught me how to do so many things. So my dad and my uncle.
Got you. That's amazing, man. Favorite life gem or piece of advice that anybody has given you?
Best piece of advice: never quit. Just never quit.
Simple. All right. So on your website, I was looking at kind of your mission, your global goals for sustainability development. There's 17 things on there. I'm not going to name them all, but you have just these massive goals and things that you want to do in the world, just with the water, outside of the water, and everything. So, what is your like ultimate vision of the future? Like, if somebody could say you could wave your magic wand and have it exactly how you would want it, what would it look like?
Producing enough water on the scale where you could grow food on the mass scale and have it all operated on solar power, so that you could have whole communities globally that can produce, even though the planet's going to heat up and the ocean is going to rise and the climate's going to change, where people can have unlimited access to clean water and unlimited access to clean food using technology to do it. That's what I see. I see several biospheres that in the future that'll be along the coastal areas that'll be producing millions of gallons of water a day. And inside of these protected domed environments, enclosed, soaking up solar radiation, growing food, healthy without the chemicals, and all the people that are around there eating this food, you know, curing cancer from eating healthy food, curing obesity, curing heart disease, curing all the ailments, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, that come from eating bad, contaminated, corporation, greed, accessed food that's been thrown out to the communities in the United States.
I see it, man. And I also see Nobel Peace Prize in the future or something. Something connected to that,
I'm
man.
Good. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, man. I mean, have you thought about, what it is that you want your legacy to be and what you want for people to understand and know about who you were and the work that you did?
I'm cool right now. Yeah, I've done enough. It's like when the first person came up to me and said, "You know what? You saved my life." That's enough, because there's an old proverb that says, "He who saves one saves the world entire." He who saves one saves the world entire. And I've had several people come up to me in my life since I've been doing this and said, "Man, you saved my life. You saved my life." And that to me right there is more than enough. If I've saved one person, my life is complete.
That is profound, man. Profound. And just for my personal mission, I got to definitely look at these science classes, these textbooks, and make sure that Moses West is on there, because the work that you're doing as an innovator, and just trying to, help the world out and solve problems without just complaining about it. I feel like we live in a society where so many people complain about issues but don't really do anything to resolve them. And it's always a breath of fresh air to see people that's actually doing the work and going 110% trying to add value to the world, as opposed to just talking about somebody needs to change something, somebody needs to do this. Like, I really have a high degree of respect for the work that you're doing, and I'm very inspired, man.
Thank you. Well, it's just we have to give people the opportunity to do something. It's like people are so financially strapped today that the only thing you can think about is what you can do between now and the end of the month, just so you can, pay your rent, eat your food. I mean, people don't have time to think outside of the box. And then you're given tools to kind of hold you in place, such as like social media. Like, if you're going to sit there on TikTok all day or Instagram all day, work your little thumbs, you're not going to go outside like in this environment that I'm sitting in right now. It's like if I tried to get some my nieces and nephews to go for a hike in these woods back here, they wouldn't even cross into those woods. Because they don't understand what's out there anymore. We need to broaden the minds of the kids and the people today, to let them know that there are things out there that they can do, And there are people out there that will help them to guide them on the path to do it. Teachers.
Indeed, indeed. How can people support the work that you're doing and find you, man?
Oh, the best way to do it right now is like if they can donate to the foundation. The donations to the foundation right now, because I'm building this machine. I'm building this machine from a small investment that's coming to my company. I've got some military contracts that I'm filling right now that I'm going to start filling in this upcoming quarter for the Air Force. So those profits will go into building machines, and all those machines that I build are going to go out to people. I'm going to give those away. So some people purchase machines, but then communities to meet machines, I'm going to start giving them away because now I have the capability to build them. But if people would donate towards that at the Moses West Foundation, donate towards building machines, and that's what I'm doing right now. So I can give them away.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There it is. And one last favor before we leave with us today, could you leave us with your favorite quote and what it means to you?
Favorite quote. Oh man, you caught me off guard. My favorite quote is, like I said before, there's no such thing as a problem, only opportunities.
Love it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, I feel like if we had your mind state, the amazing things that the world would be, doing and the changes that would occur. And I think that we all should be inspired to think about solving the problems and looking at problems as opportunities and not just impossibilities. So hopefully this inspires people to look at issues and problems in the world as an opportunity to create change and not just something that is always going to stay stagnant and consistent. Mind state is important. And Moses West, I think you're a perfect example of what a mind state of change can do in the world. And I hope people mimic and replicate that to continue on, man. I think it'll help us out a lot in terms of the Black community and, solving some issues, man. So thank you for coming on, man. Appreciate all the work that you're doing. And we'd love to bring you back, get an update, bring you on, our MasterMine University so you can talk to some of the kids and inspire some of the kids. So definitely we'll be chatting in the future. Listeners, definitely support Mr. West. Donate. Don't get instead of the box of pizza for the night, donate to Mr. West Foundation and really support the work that he's doing. It's amazing work and it's legitimate work. It's been honored all over the world. He has a day named after him in Texas for a reason. So definitely follow his work, support, and of course, remember, your mind is the most powerful tool in the universe. If you can think it, you can do it. If you believe in it, you can be it. And if you fight for it, you can have it. The world is yours. This has been your host, Mr. G, and I will see you next time on MasterMine.
So every day I'm going hard. I'm talking business, bank accounts, and credit cards. And somehow we defeat the odds and making sure that no one starved illegal or you had a job.